calcium, the little platelets of calcium that go into this sort of spongy material. Like the bone itself without the calcium looks kind of like a very porous piece of coral. You know how when coral's in the water it kind of waves? Our bones would do that if they didn't have the calcium in them. So the platelets of calcium go in and they're like a cement in there, and they make it solid and hard. So even though our people are not, and you can show this to your guys, say, eat your calcium, eat your dark leafy greens. There's been research that in cultures that do not have dairy but do have a lot of dark leafy greens, they had even better bone health in their senior years than cultures that have a very high dairy and not a lot of vegetable. So people in like Asian countries where there's a lot of vegetables and not a lot of cows, versus people in Switzerland where there's a lot of cows and not much vegetable. Both of them have higher bone health than people who don't eat any of this. It's best to eat as much of both as you can if your diet will tolerate it. But if they do not eat calcium, their bones will become soft. And if their bones become soft and they're already losing bone mass because they're elderly, they're just one slip on the floor away from going to the hospital. So, but if you give them lots of calcium, it helps, and take them for walks to get their muscles going. So I did want to mention briefly, mealtime equals meal versus time. And I know you don't have a lot of time to make the meals. It's like I said before, it's the highlight and the full purpose for my being, but it's not going to be the full purpose for yours. So if you make a very simple meal, or, I mean, you guys aren't doing the frozen cans, so that's awesome. But if you do like canned soup, and you try to get one that's low sodium, you can still throw in some extra frozen vegetables to bring a little more nourishment to it. Let's see, you can work with your client's senses to sort of push them towards the food you want to eat. Like if he loves fish, and he loves the taste of that fish, you can make sure that everything on there that you want to eat, like all the vegetables, get the juice of the fish on them, so then it tastes like the fish.
Well, with my client, he loves vegetables. That's what he likes. He likes tomato vegetables. He'll get a serving. And he ate milk with every meal until the doctor cut him down to one. And that's when he had cereal in the morning, because he would drink a lot of that too.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, he's a perfect client.
You see, I'm with you guys. But also work with their senses. Make sure it's very, very flavorful. We're talking about putting in some fresh herbs, because that really brings the aroma out. Let's see, what else? Making the meal sociable and interesting. It looks like you're a crowd that already does that. Some seniors are so used to just sitting quietly and eating. But every time we eat, this is one of the few things that we have been doing since we were babies. You know, our whole lives we've been eating. So every time you eat with one of your clients, you can use that meal to trigger memories from way back when, hear stories about way back when, which serves two effects. If you have someone who's a picky eater, they don't want to eat, if they're chatting with you and laughing and having fun, they regain, it's not just, oh, I have to do this, but I've lost everything in my life and I'm just shoveling it in my mouth. It becomes a family event again. It gives them joy, takes them back to memories. I haven't thought about this in 30 years till you mentioned whatever. And you know, they get to take the people from their past and bring them to their present dining room. They get to include you now in aspects of your life, so you become another facet of family member, even though you all already are by the nature of your relationship with them. And it makes them look forward to the next meal. So these are all good things. It stimulates them in every way. And involving their food history. Like, I would juice, I had a lot of people I was trying to get more calories into them. I had this group that was just underweight, so I was trying to sneak as much as I could. I'd get them together and I would juice fruits and give them freshly squeezed juice. And while I'd be juicing the apples, I talked about my childhood. I grew up on a farm. And we had apple trees. And every fall, you would find me sitting up in an apple tree, eating apples, reading a book. throwing cores and like semi-rotten apples down to the cows who are all below me eating apples and we're all happy. As soon as I say that, everyone's got an apple story. It doesn't matter if you grew up in the city. Everyone's got an apple story. Everyone has the little grocery mom and pop shop down the road that they would go and they would steal an apple when no one was looking when they were 8 years old. Or my wife made the best apple pie. So you can use the food you're eating with them as a way to trigger things that, again, helps with their memory. Another thing, conventional produce these days has potentially only 1/6 of the nutritional value of organic or all-natural or locally farmed produce. So if you are worried about, if your resident is fine and robust with what they're eating, this is not really such a worry, but if you want to make sure you get more nutrition into them with the same amount of food, that's a good time then to go over to conventional, from conventional, like what you just buy at Giant or Shoppers or wherever, and go to the organic stuff. The organic farms and all natural and small local farms are more likely to have soil that's well maintained, to rotate their crops and make sure that the nourishment gets into the product and not use a lot of chemicals and let it ripen on the vine, so to speak, or on the tree. The food that you buy at Giant, a lot of it is ripened after it's picked. The final stage of ripening occurs in a gassing chamber. So it has the nutritional value of, say, a green zucchini or a green apple. And it was grown in soil that was not well nourished, in an area where there's a lot of pollution. So, and they spray it with a lot of, bug spray and the like. So if your client is, I don't want to start a big panic rush. We're going to the farmer's market. If your client is fine with what they're eating, that's great. But if you feel the need to add more nourishment per bite, see if trying some organic or locally farmed food does the trick for them. And if they do get out and about, I have taken clients to the local farmers markets and let them pick out what they want me to cook for them. It's a fun outing, they have a great time, and again, I hear so many awesome stories. It's wonderful. And they really look forward to it. It's something very exciting for them. And then when we eat the food that they chose at the farmer's market, they're very, very happy. So let's see. Oh, and a few other, you can always add more nourishment. Like anytime I make a milkshake, I keep some protein powder and I throw some in it. I use whey-based protein powder because I think it's easier for them to digest. But I throw in some protein powder and a little yogurt. So I'll make a milkshake here, it's like 2 in the afternoon, halfway between lunch and dinner, have a little milkshake, and they think they're having a milkshake. I think they're having 32 grams of protein, calcium, vitamin D, some micronutrients, acidophilus, and we're both happy. If they're like drinking tea, you can try doing like half cranberry juice, half boiling water with a little bit of honey. It tastes just like an herbal tea. And it's good for the UTIs. Fresh fruit and cottage cheese. And if they say it's not sweet enough, drizzle a little honey on the cottage cheese. It makes it taste like a ricotta tort. It's fantastic. And also, always keep this food moist and tender, like cooking in the wrapper like you do. And lots of gravy, lots of gravy. So does anyone have any questions before I give you? Yes.
Can you explain the difference between whole grains, multigrains, and whole wheat and robust kind? Because that's kind of confusing.
That is a great question. Whole grain, a grain like any plant, it's got the exterior shell, the husk, and then it's got like the germ in the middle, and it's got the starch, and the little enzymes. The whole grain is the whole grain, like with the husk and everything. When you buy, say, white flour or white rice, they've removed that husk. So what you have is predominantly starch, which is not so helpful. When you have the husk still on it, you have all the added fiber to it and a lot more micronutrients. So whole wheat is the whole grain that's the wheat. So if you eat whole wheat bread, they're getting like the whole thing. And a multi-grain just means they're not just doing wheat, they might be doing wheat and barley and rye, a few others, but they're all whole grains. And that's even healthier, actually, because they're mixing it up a little bit. They're giving a nice, broader spectrum of nourishment. If you're cooking rice for them, again, brown basmati rice, very, very popular with anyone I tried. There's a few fun, funky rices out there, like red rice from Bhutan, or forbidden black rice from China, or even wild rice. If they're up for it, you can play with them because they're like extremely healthful and they're fun to eat. But if they go, no, that's weird, I don't like it, don't force it. It'll just end up with them yelling at you. At least that's what they do to me. Any other questions? Any questions about the whole wheat or the whole grain? Okay. Do we want to do the test now, or?
Yeah, I'll take it. I want to thank you, Bonita. That was wonderful. I think everybody got something. And help your clients. Yes, thanks so much. Really, really appreciate that.
Well, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm going to leave some of my cards at the table. I do have a website with lots of recipes and all kinds of nutritional information, and if you have specific questions, you're welcome to email me, and I'll try to get back to you in a very timely manner.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to have the usual, you know that we have to do for anyone who provides personal care, you're required to do 12 hours of continuing education. And by completing this quiz today, which Bonita did, so it's easy, you'll be able to get 2 hours of continuing education, okay? And if you're here for a couple minutes, then we'll take a break. You can get some refreshments and anyone can talk to you then.
Certainly.
Thanks so much.